All right. Okay, so Judith Hodara is back. Judith is the former director of admissions at the Wharton Business School and currently the co-founder of Fortuna Admissions. We just did a whole video around MBA programs and applying to MBA programs right now in the era of COVID-19. Hi, Judith. Thanks for coming back for another video.
Hi, Beth. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
So when we were talking about the kinds of things that you are helping students with, there was one piece that I thought would be very relevant for our audience, which are mostly high school students, but also some students who are currently in college. And so, as we know, everybody is home right now. Ideally, if you're living in a state that's practicing social distancing, even if your state is not officially practicing social distancing, hopefully we're all being smart and staying at home. And which has thrown a lot of things into turmoil, particularly things that students might have lined up for their summers, like internships or extracurricular activities they might have been involved with on their college campuses or even in high school. And so my question for you is really around what kinds of things are you recommending to students who are building their profile towards eventually applying to business school? Because I actually do think there are also some implications and takeaways for students who are maybe building their profiles to eventually apply to college. So would love your thoughts here.
I'm happy to talk about it. And there's something that I'm pretty focused on these days, which is you always feel better when you're doing something. And you usually feel better when you're doing something for somebody else. I don't, I'm not a psychologist, but I really believe that. And so if you take the time to maybe get out of your own head a little bit and not think about the fact that, oh my gosh, I've been home for 6 weeks, so this is crazy. It gives you an opportunity to think about the ways that you might want to connect. So I'm going to give you an example. I just spoke with a young man the other day who had been very involved in something called Race for the Cure. Or Relay for the Cure in college. And he has since graduated college and he's working full time. And he said, I really would like to get re-engaged, but the race is off. There's not going to be one. And I've been working crazy hours. I don't have a chance. I said, well, call them, email them, see how you can help. You know how to talk to people. You know how to set up spreadsheets. I'm pretty sure you could post some stuff online, see if they need somebody to work on their back end communications. There's so many ways. And that's just one example, by the way.
Yes.
So many ways to make a difference. And I have found that the barriers to entry for this kind of engagement are super low, right? It's not like an organization is going to say to you, I'm so sorry, you need to have been on our board for 5 years before you can do X, X, and X, or before you can run with this project. The opportunity to step up and step in is enormous these days.
Yes.
And I am finding that students and recent graduates and people that are thinking about next steps are really in great demand because you have the energy, you probably have the time, and there's an opportunity here. And it doesn't necessarily have to go through 17 chains of command. Right. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to post a video once a day and I'm going to read to kids. And then I'm going to call my local YMCA or my YWHA and say, oh, can I put this on your site? I'm sure that parents that are home with kids would love to have you read to them once a day. Or maybe you have other talents that you want to share. Schools across the country are closed. So how are teachers teaching? They're always looking for other kinds of ideas. And as the mom of a 10-year-old, I can tell you it's so nice to have every so often a special guest star come into her virtual classroom. So those are just a few ideas. I also would say, and I know that this is taken with, a lot of thought on a personal level, but if there are organizations locally that could actually in person use your help, can you pick up groceries from a secure site, deliver them to someone's door securely? Can you get online, for example, and show someone virtually how to navigate Zoom? There's definitely a population now that is very isolated and very cut off. And so there's so many organizations that are working to help them get more on board with technology and allow them to enter Zoom or Skype or communicate with loved ones. So lots of ideas. The other thing I would say, and maybe we can talk about this, is Beth, you'd asked about internships and things like that. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what your thoughts are.
Well, I just think a lot of people probably have lined things up. So
Mhm.
I have, as examples, students who were planning to work in a lab, students who were planning to be volunteering for a campaign, going door to door.
Sure.
Just, so a number of different ways in which they were planning to get experience
Sure.
in the work world, but that were at the moment requiring them to be there in person. So, any thoughts on replacements for that type of experience? I think would be interesting.
Without a doubt, I mean, just thinking about, door to door, unfortunately, you can't do it, but you can still
Yep.
pick up the phone. You
Yes.
can still send direct emails to people you know. I mean,
Hmm.
who wouldn't be excited to talk to somebody they didn't know right now?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Actually,
and
they're sick of talking to the people that they live with.
right. And it's really good
Anything new.
experience. I am I'm a little older than most of your listeners, but I don't talk on the phone that much anymore. And
Hmm.
so I had to learn that skill in the past couple of weeks again. And so learning that skill, how to engage people over the phone or over Zoom, is really important. For
Yes.
those of you that are in a lab, it might not be the most exciting or glamorous work. You can certainly learn how to do some research data. You
Hmm.
can certainly help to run different scenarios. You can learn incredibly valuable skills.
Hmm.
So although it would have been great if you had actually been working with pipettes in a hospital in a lab setting, there are so many other ways. I believe, though, you should not go with the request, but you could go with the solution. Hi,
Hmm.
Dr.
Yes.
Jones. I know the lab is closed for the summer, but I'd really like to help out. What do you think about? And the reason I'm suggesting this is because everybody's got a lot on their mind. They may not be thinking about your summer internship as much
Yeah.
as you are.
Yes. Of
But
course they're not,
if
right?
you were to call your local political campaign office and say, "Look, I was supposed to be with you guys. What do you think? This is my idea." They're going to be so super receptive.
Right.
And this goes back to my initial statement about having some initiative and the barriers to engagement being kind of low.
Hmm.
Everyone is looking for help and everybody's looking for ideas.
Right, exactly. Because for all of these organizations, the fact is that eventually we are going to come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are ready to go, that have not completely lost all momentum, are, of course, going to be the ones that are much more likely to survive and even thrive when this is all over. And so if you can be a part of the process
Yeah.
of that forward momentum, that can only be good. And I think another big thing, and it seems like a small thing, but I'm encouraging everyone, keep track of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really want you to write your essays for college about this quarantine period, but what I do want you to do is keep track of the things that you've done. Maybe you feel like it's not important now because I was supposed to do this big thing, and instead I did what I think is a small thing. But I think if you keep track of it, and then later on you could step back and say, well, that small thing I did contributed to this bigger
Sure.
thing. That is really the way in which you can show how you use this time appropriately. And also keep in mind, yeah, you have time on your hands, but I don't know, this isn't always a time where you feel really productive because life is really stressful.
Yeah.
And so I also wouldn't get too hung up on it. Well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just doing something little. I'm just calling 3 people a day for a campaign. Well, that's 3 people you're calling on behalf of a candidate that hopefully you feel really strongly about. And maybe those are 3 people who weren't thinking about voting for that person,
Right.
and now they are, right? So I do feel in this current environment, we live in a time where little things
Mm-hmm.
matter and can have more impact than you realize. So,
100%, Beth. I couldn't have said it any better. I really believe that. And again, psychologically, doing something, no matter how small it may be, it really helps to bolster your mood, bolster your overall outlook, and helps you to feel a little bit better.
yeah,
So
absolutely. And you're accomplishing something.
yeah,
And even though that's at the end of the day what you and I are all about, because we want students to have things to write about and to put on
right.
their applications, it is kind of notable that we put that a little bit lower on the list as to why you would do these things. So, yes. Anyway, Judith, thanks as
Right.
always for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Such a pleasure. I love talking about this. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks so much, Beth.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care,
Take
everybody.